You know what I read recently? Cameraman put me onto this because of the whole, you know, what's happening out there. Did you know that, like, I think it was last year, the mortality rate for black males in America, roughly 30% of it accounted for was from heart disease?
And a surprising amount comes from diabetes, but that's a conversation some of you aren't ready to have.
Because no one wants to talk about how fat lives matter. Don't laugh.
Fat lives matter. If you really cared, fat lives would matter, but no. You're not enough of a man to support the fucking, like, high-waist panty, hide the undulating blubber rules.
No. See,
Fat lives matter.
Here's the real problem with
smuggling livestock underneath those folds.
Instead of talking about how fat lives matter, we're talking about fat acceptance. In fact, we are allowing people to harm themselves in a form of praise. It's okay to be sick and obese, when in fact, it's not. It's killing you, and you should probably do something about it. I think it's unfair. And I think the black community is involved in that as well. I think it's important that everyone talks about how fat lives matter.
Hi, he's Minoxus. I'm Stan Haynes, and we're here with 718 TV. In replacement of cameraman giving us a proper subscribe button. So until then, we're here to remind you, subscribe to 718 TV.
If you don't, cameraman doesn't get to eat.
Yeah, and it's an unspoken, ugly truth of the number of not just black men, but black women who suffer and or die from diabetes.
Yeah, because fat lives matter.
Fat lives matter. If you don't believe in fat lives matter, then everything about you is ugly and your soul is dog shit. You are an is who harbors an ism and possibly a phobia. And if you're not in with the fucking high, like, waist panties and fucking, like, skirts and pants that hide the undulating blubber and the folds and the flabs, and you should just be, like, wearing high heels and striding across the Texas plain to see if you strike oil as you continue brushing your teeth with milkshakes and using bacon as band-aids. Like, yeah, fat lives matter, and if you don't believe in that, then, like, you're a disgusting bigot.
And if you're someone who, like, keeps pushing that narrative of fat acceptance, body in any, like, health at any size, body positivity, all that stuff, shame on you. Because how dare you let these people harm themselves without interfering? You wouldn't let a drug addict go down that path, would you? No. Someone who's inflicting self-harm? No. You want them to be the best version of them that they can. So start shaming people. Start helping them.
That's on you.
Alright? Fat lives matter. All of them.
You could come to realize that if you better your surroundings, you better yourself. And you can do that if you come to terms and actualize that fat lives matter. What's holding you back? What's your problem?
Unless you're unfit. In which case, fat lives don't matter. But that's different stuff.
Yes. Fucking. No, listen, fat shaming works. Alright, so listen. Fat shaming works because no amount of mental jujitsu.
Hold on. I want to add to that, like a little asterisk underneath fat shaming works, where, like, shaming works.
Okay.
So long as the target is someone who is mentally healthy. Shaming only fails when the person you are shaming is mentally unstable, in which case the shaming adds to the thing that put them there in the first place. Like someone with an eating disorder.
Right.
If you shame them, they get worse.
Okay,
but that's a mental disorder on top of an actual disease. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So in the case of, like, fat shaming, like, that's a person with a disease, and if they're mentally unstable, it's not gonna help. But if they're, like, they're good up here, shaming can probably work.
Maybe.
Just to be clear, shaming does work for those who are stable.
Listen, because ultimately, one of the few things that can reach someone who tries to put as many layers between themselves and them having to acknowledge that they're fat doing everything they possibly can to hide what you see and what you interact with. So you see that is proof that self-deception often precedes deceiving others. All right. So the fat acceptance movement and the high-waisted, hide, the chundering cottage cheese and saran wrap limbs of this beefalo that's just striding upon the land.
The fupas.
It's gross and it's unwarranted. And then eventually, like, a small voice inside you starts to go, like, belly shirts are a privilege, not a right. And then that's wrong thinking. That can get you fired from where you work.
I want to clarify something, too. Because this shit gets easily misconstrued. If you're fat and you feel gross, or you feel like you're being targeted by people who think you're gross, like, it's okay to want to change that. It's the ones who are like, this is fine. Where it's like, it's not. And if you were just like, this is fine, even though it isn't, and like, I'm aware of my, like, I guess, like, defects.
Remember healthy at any weight?
Yeah.
Remember when that was a reoccurring chant of people who were trying to strike back at the initial LOL, you're morbidly obese, and that, like, across the board on a, biometric level, you just kind of fucked. Why would you fucking champion that? So anyways, healthy at any weight. Does anyone remember that? Let us know in the comment section.
I remember that shit. If you're gonna choose vices that are gonna kill you, you might as well, like, drink and smoke, to be honest.
Monoxis remembers. What's your excuse?
Yeah. I was a fat kid once. I was.
You could take over the eastern seaboard with an army of fat kids.
Probably both seaboards if you got ripped.
You would need Ecuadorian dwarves to take over both seaboards under a fucking month, because they are magical people from the equator.
Just saying, if you got all those fat kids ripped and in shape, they could do a lot. They could do damage.
But then they wouldn't be fat kids anymore.
Yeah, but they're better than fat kids because they're ripped kids who were once fat kids.
How would you tempt and bribe them? With like fucking like payday bars so they fucking lift weights and
No,
shit?
of course not. Because if they're fat and they've moved on from being fat, now they have other goals like, higher reps and more weight. And
I think you're really overestimating these fat kids.
you're right.
And you have to understand that like fat kids are hard to kidnap.
I'm not talking about kidnapping.
Well, how else are you gonna get the fat kids?
You open a gym for fat kids.
No, they're really hard to kidnap because they're fucking fat.
Cameraman, just put a disclaimer or something. We do not kidnap fat kids and attempt to take
Cameraman
over.
knows better than anyone else. But his psychic bullshit and just sits there and vibrates and you hear like fucking power cable sounds.
That is gonna sound like cameraman kidnaps children.
He kidnaps fat kids.
He doesn't.
Because he has an army of fat kids.
Cameraman, please put a disclaimer up.
Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Cameraman is untouchable because he has an army of fat kids that does his bidding. It's like fucking Apocalypse Now, but with like an endless army of fat kids.
Since when did we have an endless army of fat kids that I'm unaware of?
That's cameraman's business.
That's fair. Damn, man. Things have changed.
Because it was cameraman who told me that, if you lift the dregs of society, you get a free army, like, in the long run. I'm not saying cameraman is trying to do that, but, like, there is no Viet Cong to out Viet Cong, but cameraman is trying to out Viet Cong someone out there.
I mean, he does have a point, though. I don't know if fat kids was the right... I don't even think that's true, but I'll talk to him later. I don't know if fat kids is the right way to go in terms of, like, creating a new Viet Cong-style army. Like,
you need Ecuadorian dwarves.
Well, all right, but, like, I don't think Ecuadorian dwarves are real either.
Oh, they are.
Says you.
It's like 1/5 the 7 train.
Are you just calling manlets dwarves?
Yeah, they are a magic people of the equator.
Okay. No, fair. I just had to confirm.
They are.
Cameraman, you enjoy your army of manlets.
You never hear of any negative stereotypes about Ecuadorians. It's funny because most Latin American countries have their own like stereotypes or shortcomings, if you want to call it that. Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Brazilians, Colombians. Like, according to Chile, Argentina would be great if it wasn't for the fucking Argentinians. But you never hear anyone speak ill of Ecuadorians.
Not really, no.
More often than not, it's because of their vendetta bullshit is like, directed inwards to their fellow Ecuadorians. Like things that put Colombian neckties to shame. Because it's angry Ecuadorian, Dwarven, Equator, magical people vendetta. And it's some next level shit.